Hey, what's good, yo? Welcome back to another video. The Houston Rockets are planning to waive swingman Ben McLemore, and it's apparent that several contenders are expected to express interest in the sharpshooting wing. And this shouldn't be too much of a surprise considering that Ben McLemore's minutes weren't super consistent. This past game versus the Celtics, he only played like 5 minutes. Lots of games he only played like either no minutes or less than 10 minutes, which is way less than he usually gets. And he has had an up and down season so far. Pre All-Star break, he wasn't shooting that well from the three, like we usually see from Ben McLemore, like 30%. But then post All-Star break, it kind of showed that he wanted to be here in a sense that he was shooting way better with 35.9% post All-Star break. So compared to pre All-Star and post All-Star, he was playing a little bit better. But he was averaging 11.1 points post All-Star break, so that kind of shows reasoning as to why contenders are interested in him, and they can definitely use him. I mean, in last season, he had a 62.2 percent true shooting percentage, which is really good. And teams can definitely use a sharpshooter like that coming off the bench. The only limitation that we all know Ben McLemore had was his defense. So what do you think about this news?
I think it's probably the right move for the Houston Rockets. You know, Ben McLemore, he doesn't really fit the timeline of the Houston Rockets rebuild, and he's one of those last guys from the former era of the Rockets when they were really like contending for championship around Harden. He's one of those last guys still on the roster, and so the fact that they're moving on from him, it's probably the best move for the franchise. He wasn't really having a great season this year either. His efficiency from three and from the field was down a lot, going from, I believe he was shooting exactly 40% from three last season to now down to 33%. And so he was just not really doing that well for the Rockets, and his age didn't really match with the Rockets timeline either. So I think it's the best move for both McLemore because he can go now sign to a contender, try to compete for a championship, and for the Rockets because he was never really on that timeline for the rebuild.
Yeah, I also thought that the Rockets would trade Ben McLemore by the trade deadline. I thought he would be coupled with Victor Oladipo in some trade package, but honestly, you could probably attribute that to his kind of poor play before the All-Star break, so teams weren't too interested in him then. But now after the All-Star break, like I said, like he's playing way better. So, but yeah, I really hope that he goes on a good contender because he definitely deserves a ring. Probably some contenders that are probably interested in him are Harden and the Nets, who obviously Harden has previously played with Ben McLemore. Also Jeff Green, who's also on that roster. And probably the Lakers, who are trying to it's kind of like a nuclear arms race when Lakers and Nets just trying to acquire the most stars as much as possible. And Ben McLemore could join them. I think he has a similar agent to Rich Paul, who LeBron.
Yeah, he has the same agent as LeBron.
Yeah. So, who do you think Ben McLemore will get picked up by?
I think most likely destination is probably going to be one of the Lakers or the Nets. I think two sleeper teams that could pick him up is probably the Clippers and the Philadelphia 76ers. You know, as far as the 76ers go, since they do have Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid as their franchise cornerstones, who, while Embiid can shoot, he's not really a great shooter. And Simmons, we all know he can't shoot at all. And so having another floor spacer around Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, that's obviously going to help them. That's kind of what Daryl Morey and Doc Rivers have been designing this whole time. So I think McLemore would be a good fit on the Philadelphia 76ers. And I think on the Clippers, again, that's another guy who can space the floor for them, add some more depth, which they've been lacking a little bit. They did sign Boogie Cousins a couple days ago, and now with Ben McLemore, that adds some more depth, which they've been needing some of. And I think, of course, the main two contenders to sign him are probably the Lakers and the Nets. And I think it will probably end up being probably the Lakers because of, like I said, with Rich Paul being the same agent as LeBron for Ben McLemore. I think it will end up being the Lakers. But again, I feel like those are the four teams that are probably going to sign him.
Yeah, Sixers is kind of interesting. Like you said, Morey was the one who signed Ben McLemore, so that could be another factor in play. So Yeah, that's definitely interesting. Maybe the Bucks will try to get Ben McLemore. Obviously, he has a similar teammate in PJ Tucker. Maybe I don't know if Ben McLemore and PJ Tucker are buddies, super buddies, but you never know, right? Because Eastern Conference is just trying to beat the super team right now, which are the Brooklyn Nets. So you never know. I mean, Giannis could use some more shooters. You know, that'd be even more dangerous for them. So, but yeah, any final thoughts before we wrap up the video?
I would just like to point out that for any people who might be fans of many other teams that are watching us, his season highs last season were actually pretty impressive. He dropped 28 points. That was his season high last season as far as points go. And he actually made 8 3-pointers in a game last season. So again, Ben McLemore, if your team is in need of spacing, he can be a really, really good floor spacer. And I feel like the reason why he was struggling this season is because the Rockets, as we all know, they've been struggling with their 3-point shooting because they don't really have elite floor spacers anymore. And because of that, the threes that McLemore has been taking aren't as good as the threes that he was taking last season. And that may be a reason for the drop in efficiency. I don't think that McLemore has regressed because he is just 28 years old. So there's no reason for him to really be regressing. It's not like he's experienced any major injuries either. So I think once McLemore gets to a contender with good floor spacers and good playmakers, I think he will do really good and get back up to shooting that around 40% range from three.
Yeah, I mean, Ben McLemore has shown some flashes this season versus the Timberwolves on March 26th. He had 21 points with 7 3-pointers made. And so that's a 50% 3-point percentage. So that's really, really good. So, I mean, Ben McLemore, he has that ability to score like 3+ 3-pointers every game, you know? So as long as you don't have the center of attention focused on him, then I think he'll be great for any team, to be honest. And he's been trying mid-range and he's been doing dunks nowadays. So he's been trying to work on himself. So like you gotta give props to him, of course. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. Let us know your thoughts on this recent news. And as always, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. Thank y'all for watching. Peace.